So you're talking to a professional who is not a marketer, but is a guy who is an engineer or an architect or whatever, and he doesn't practice marketing as his profession, but yet he has to market his services and his company's services or his own team's services within his company, right?
Right. Well, I think that's why marketing is always a partnership with the business, because I'm not an engineer. I don't know how to do engineering, and you're not a marketer. So you wouldn't have all of the knowledge on what's the best way to bring your service or your company name or the brand that your company embodies to the market. And that's where marketing can help, because we'll be like, okay, what do we sell? How do we do it differently? What do our competitors do, and how do we compare against them? Like, how can we differentiate ourselves from them? And then who are we going after? Who do we have something to say? Who are we trying to get in front of to build business from? And I wouldn't expect an engineer or an accountant or a lawyer to have that much knowledge. I mean, you do get some that are very marketing savvy, but for the most part, they don't. And that's why marketing brings that expertise. We think about it through a different lens. And knowing who we're trying to go after, we can help define, okay, what's important to that market? Where are they? Where do those people hang out? And then we start to develop a marketing strategy.
So really, the thing is that when you get somebody who's a professional, and especially somebody who runs a small business, and then now they've been acquired by a bigger business, or they just run a small business, and you're coming in, you're offering help. The thing is, they have been able to cobble together something and survive in their own way, and maybe even thrive, but they haven't really maximized what they could be doing. And that's where marketing comes in as a marketing professional, because a marketing professional comes in and says, hey, that's great. Nobody's trying to take away your initiatives. Nobody's trying to take away what you've done. But what we're trying to do is augment what you've done, amplify it, augment it, whatever. And we're also going to help you introduce some new concepts to you about ways to take advantage of what you do, ways to position yourself. As I had said, messaging, but you crawled all over me about messaging because
it's broader than messaging. But yes.
Well, what are some of the other elements of marketing? It's broader than messaging.
Well, because we're helping define ideally a strategy. I think particularly a lot of smaller companies where they don't have a lot of marketing people on board. It's all about the tactics. In other words, the activities. We're going to speak at this conference. We're going to do this ad over here. We're going to do some social media. But there may not be a cohesive strategy.
I can tell you as a small business owner, there was no cohesive strategy.
Right. It was all cobbled together. And
because you move from one initiative to another. You get an idea as a small business owner and a salesperson. You move from one idea to another. You're like, okay, this would be a great idea. I think this will connect with my prospect, or this will connect with my existing customer.
And then it may.
And it may, but then you jump all your resources on it. You jump on it and you're like, okay, I'm going to develop this and we're going to get it out there and you cobble together a list and you cobble together all this stuff. And then you just go, all right, we're making momentum. We're moving here. We got something going. And there is no real strategy like, okay, if I do this, what then? Well, then we're gonna email them, and then after we email them, we're gonna call them, and then it's just a matter of kissing a lot of babies. We'll eventually get kissing frogs, and eventually we'll get our prince. But that's not the way marketing sees it. The way marketing sees it is completely different. They're like, wait a second, hold on, whoa. I know you're excited about this initiative or this campaign or whatever you're going to do. You're going to send out pens, or you're going to send out whatever you're going to send out, stress balls, or whatever you're going to send out, or you're just going to, whatever you're going to do. I know you're excited about that. I know you're excited about the message, but how does it fit into an overall plan?
Right.
Right.
And I think,
because otherwise you're just spending a lot of money, spinning your wheels. And I've done this where you're spending a lot of money, spinning your wheels, going out there, And then I've sent out campaigns where we've had such a big list that it's like, okay, don't know where to start. All right, well, I guess, and then it just died. And then we spent all this money, we sent this out, and then we were like,
in terms of the follow-up?
yeah, and then we were like, okay, wait a second. We got to send this out in smaller batches. You can't send this out to 500 people and then expect that you're going to try to follow up and have actual conversations with 500 people. So marketing has to sit there and say, wait a second, what's the strategy here? How big is the list? I know you want to reach 1,000 people because that means it's going to have 100 conversations, and that means you're going to have 10 people who could buy your business. But maybe that's too ambitious. Do you have the resources to cover that?
There's that aspect of it for sure. But then even if you followed up, you actually spoke to somebody and had a good call, that doesn't mean they're ready to buy. So now what? Like, how do you continue to keep your name in front of them? And it's not just your job as the owner or a salesperson. You want some air cover, and that's where marketing can come in, because we can be developing campaigns or other programs where we're aware of this person.
But it's not just that. It's also, how much can you talk to that one person? You have this initial conversation. Say you get somebody on the phone. Okay, you got them on the phone. Yay. You had a conversation. Yay. But you can't keep calling them every week.
Right.
You can't keep calling that same person saying, hey, Bill, I know we just met. Now,
if they see your name, not just your name, but like your company name at a conference that they attend, and then they bump into somebody at that association event or somewhere else, and then they get an email from you guys, and then, so they all build on each other.
Right.
And that's the benefit of having a strategy, because you're starting to think big picture, and how do we keep our name in front of these people throughout their buying journey.
But can I just say this? This is from a business owner and a salesperson perspective. This is where my eyes glaze over.
Right.
And I'm like, a strategy. Okay, wait a second. I just
what if we called it a plan? Would that make you feel better?
No, it would
strategy.
Because I don't know. But what I'm saying is, I'm like, a strategy.
But here, let me tell you what happens when
I think I need the brown paper bag. I need to start breathing heavily.
But here's what I see when there's not a strategy. There's only so many dollars you're going to have to spend, and there's only so much time in the day. And so when there's no strategy, you've got John involved in this association. You've got, money that you're spending on this sponsorship over here. You did an email one-off campaign over here. You were involved. You attended some conference over here, but they were not all connected.
So, and I think the important part there is what happens if you meet Bill. Take it from the content. When you say connected, people are like, okay, connected, whatever, that's fine. Connect this and connect that. But what's that going to get me? The point is that let's take our potential prospect, Paul. Paul happens to be attending that conference, or Paul happens to be in, and he sees your name flash across. Now it's no longer, I think you got to tell people as marketers, you got to tell people, listen, it's not just about strategy or plan, because that kind of, for somebody who is looking for revenue and looking for a sale, that just puts you even further away from the sale and the revenue.
That's true. You hear strategy and you think, oh God, that's like years away. Closed deal.
Right. All I wanted to do was get a conversation going and get the guy moving toward this and get the sale.
Well, how about having a plan, strategy for a
you can't resist, can you?
I can't. But a short list of companies that you are trying to get in front of and close business with.
Right. And why don't we take it to people?
Fine, because we sell to people. That's right.
Paul at Product Manufacturer 1. I'm trying to reach him. Because the thing is that ultimately, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that all this is making, is that you're also talking about strategy and plan. It removes the people aspect. So in addition to creating like what I would call this morass of like confusion with, okay, I got a plan, and now all I wanted to do was, oh, come on, man. All I wanted to do was send out that little tchotchke, have a short email campaign, call some people, and get some business.
That working are slim.
Right.
So you can't just have a one and done.
So you got to bring it back to the people, and you got to explain why. Because the thing is, when you're a salesperson, business owner, you're like, well, you're wrong. Of course it's going to work. It's going to work because people are going to see it and they're going to call me, or we're going to call them and they're going to say, yes, I'm ready. And that's not true. It's just going back to the people's behavior. People don't do that. They got to get trust. They got to see you a bunch of times. They got to hear your name or whatever. I mean, right?
And in different ways.
Yeah, because if you just jam it down their throat with, say, taking out a billboard every day, or you're on YouTube ads, or you're jamming
1980s.
Well,
yeah.
okay, right. Dating myself a little bit. But the point is that if you hit them in one way, it's not the same, because I think there's something psychologically. So marketing is an element of psychology here, because you have to, and maybe that's the mistake you guys are making in marketing, is you're not tapping into the power of psychology enough. You're not sitting there saying, listen, you're talking to a person, and a person's not going to gain interest and trust unless you approach them from a bunch of different directions. If you just keep hammering at them, drink milk, it's good. It's very different than if you have a campaign where you have a famous person with a milk mustache and they see it on a billboard, or they see it on a bus, and then you see a commercial on YouTube, or you see, the point is that there's multi-channel, multifaceted ways that this person's experiencing your product or service. And so then I think you got to tap into the psychology in order for people to buy into the plan or the strategy here, because otherwise people's eyes glaze over and they're like, a plan, here comes marketing. Here we go. Can't close a sale to save your life. But boy, there's marketing for you. And I'm not saying that to make you feel weird. I'm saying I think that's internally what a lot of people feel when they do it. At first they're like, oh yes, marketing to the rescue. And then when the marketing thing doesn't work, they blame marketing. Instead of saying, well, wait a second, marketing gets the messaging, but I know it does other things.
But no, that's a big part of it.
But marketing gets it, conceptualizes the messaging. This is, you ask questions and you say, okay, well, wait a second, what does the product do again, or how does the service work?
Why does the prospect care? What's the issue that they're dealing with, and
how does a product or the service help them
a problem that they're having?
And once you know that, then you can develop a message.
Right.
And then that message will not sell the product.
Correct.
It's not what it's designed.
Not that easy.
That's not what it's. Why is it not that easy?
Well, because I
of people's psychology.
Well, it's people's psychology, in that people buy from people or companies they trust, but they also might not be ready to buy.
Well, and they're making a purchase.
They're making a purchase. So
there's people buy from people they trust, and no, people may not be ready. And in that may not be ready category, I think they gotta compare you against other like-minded products or services to see, is this the right purchase for us? They got to compare. And that's where the marketing can come in, because the marketing says, we have the best this. We do this. It goes back to your message of what you were saying. We do this best. We have the highest quality of that, or, whatever it is, right?
Right. Well, I mean, there's this concept of the buyer's journey, right? So you get into the psychology of it, but it's like, the John Smith at XYZ Manufacturing realizes they've got a real issue around production being slow.
Right.
So he's, in the very beginning stages of...
And your company that you're a marketer for has a solution that can speed up the processing of that, either manufacturing or whatever it is.
Right. But initially, John's going out on the internet, because that's where it all begins these days, to, discover and...
Not on a billboard. Okay. So anyway.
So it goes out and is just starting to discover what's out there on this topic or issue. Right. I don't even know. And then once he gets a little bit educated on it, and that's where marketing comes in, right? So you may have an article or You are doing some advertising, or you've got some type of content that's educating on this topic.
Right.
And then they get to a point where they kind of get schooled enough where they need to do a little bit more research, and they need to, start like really getting informed on, okay, who does this? Who could help me? And so that's kind of like this next stage in the journey. And so you use different types of marketing tools there, then especially if it sounds like it's at what stage the buyer is at emotionally. Right.
Because if you take the car analogy, people don't just go out and buy or lease a car. They
go out and they do their research.
Well, but the first thing is they have a need. Yeah. Like your analogy with the production is slow in the manufacturing of something. They have a need. The production's slow. We got to speed it up because we're not able to fulfill our orders. We're not able to make more money. We're not whatever. It's the need. And the same thing goes through with the car. Well, my car's broken, or my car's old, my car's whatever, and I have a need. We're going to have to get a car. So what do? And they don't just go to any old dealer and go, okay, that one. And we'll just go with that car. We heard an ad once and we were done. It just doesn't, right? People do their research. Right. They're like, well, wait a second. So they're at that stage now where they're saying, a sedan won't work. We need an SUV, or we need a minivan. And okay, who makes these? Which are the companies? Okay. And now how do these things make me feel when I go to see them, when I go to sit in them, when I go to talk to people? I mean, you might have a great car, but then you have a salesperson who totally turns you off.
Right.
Does that person then walk to another similar dealership? They go far away to another dealership because these guys were so not so good, whatever. But you're saying the buyer's on a journey, and I'm just trying to replicate that journey to the average person. Because our manufacturing example is helpful, but I think you got to replicate it
to every day.
So every day you're looking for a car, you're on a journey, and look at what car dealerships have done. They've created atmospheres, where they have comfortable chairs that have recliners in them, and it's like your living room to hang out. That's it confirms. I'm sitting here and I'm getting the $100 oil change, and they come in and they tell me there's $600 worth of repairs. And it's pretty comfortable here, and I'm looking at the TV, and
I can see spending some time here.
Go ahead. Put me up for the 600 in repairs. You know what I mean? So It's not just as simple as, right? It's the journey that the buyer is on. It's the journey.
So like when they get to that stage and they start doing more research, there's a genuine interest, on maybe they've narrowed it down to, 10 different cars.
Right.
So now they're doing their research on those. And so then they're more willing to, or they're going into your dealership. And
I think let's flip it. Let's flip it to the other side. And the other side is they're not ready for the journey. You're contacting somebody who's not ready.
And then you piss them off. I mean, then you ruin it, right? Because if you start calling people that aren't ready to talk, you just tick them off. It's like if they, I don't know, maybe they downloaded an article that you wrote, or you met them casually somewhere, and then you are calling them and hitting them hard to try and sell them something. They're like,
or like,
dude.
I've seen this, or when you go to an event, and you see a person and you're not good at connecting with people, and so you just hit them hard. Hey, so how's business going? Good. Hey, what's going on with this? Do you think you guys might?
Right. And that goes back to your original comment around building trust. And at that point, you don't know anything about them. So you're just,
or you don't have that type of relationship to be able to ask that.
Right. It's a turnoff.
Right.
Because you don't even know where they're at in their journey. Right?
So then if you think about what marketing does along the way, it's not just that marketing develops the message and has a strategic plan. It's that marketing is sort of helping along the journey.
Right.
To keep these people on their journey. And some people may take the journey and then just stop journeying with you, right?
Well, that could very well be. But that's why, I use the word strategy, but understanding like who we're trying to sell our services or products to is one of the first questions we ask, because we want to figure out, well, where do those people hang out? How are we going to get in front of them? So we can start to bring the company name to them. So it starts to become somewhat familiar.
And sometimes you don't want to have, I mean, I've done sales a lot. Sometimes you don't want to have the salesperson there. Sometimes you can sell best by having another professional there. You know, here's the guy who heads up our R&D.
Oh,
here's the guy who, here's one of our engineers. I mean, you worked at an IT firm you did marketing for an IT firm.
Network engineering, right.
So network engineers wanted to actually talk and ask questions of network engineers. They didn't really want to talk and ask questions of.
Oh, definitely.
You
need a combination of both.
Well, and so marketing helps with that too. It's not just a combination of approaches, right, in your strategy and plan. It's a combination of people.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the people part of it can't be underestimated. I mean, sometimes you've got people think, oh, if we do this sponsorship with this association, that's going to be great, or this sponsorship with some other organization, we're going to get all this visibility and people are going to be calling. No, they're not.
Well, and to be fair, the associations sell that. They do, because
they do. They don't play up on the people part of it, but you can't.
They don't, but that's a huge thing, because then what happens is a salesperson and a business owner or whatever. I've been in that situation where it's like, yeah, I'm going to pay for this $10,000 sponsorship at the event, and my name's going to be right up there. It's going to be on the banners, and it's going to be on the napkins, and it's going to be announced at the event. That's what's going to happen right there.
That's right.
And then the phone's going to ring and the email's going to ding, and the next thing you know, we're off to engagement. It's not going to happen.
No, that's why the people part of any association or organization that you're involved in is so critical.
It's more like you're at the event and you shake hands with somebody and they say, "Oh, you're a sponsor here." And they go,
and even
yeah.
That is a fat chance. But they may see, I'm not.
So then why even invest? So why even invest in a sponsorship then?
Well, because it can give you visibility if you've got the people from your organization involved. They're going to the conference. You guys are a platinum sponsor. You're kicking off. You get 2 minutes to kick off the cocktail reception. Plus, you're speaking at the conference. You've got people that are there from your team. So you've got the ability to connect your.
You've actually had people
with professionals.
You've actually had people who said, "I don't even want to go unless I'm speaking."
Right. Yeah. Unless I'm holding a mic.
Unless I'm holding a mic.
Right.
I don't want to be there. What is that? What are they saying with that? With that message, what are they saying?
They are realizing how important it is to have a physical presence there. You need to be.
Because you're connecting with people.
That's right. Now, it's tougher in a virtual world. I think we're all, still finding our way in the virtual world. But these associations can be really fantastic. But you just can't underestimate how important it is to have people from your organization involved. And really, somebody's got to champion the relationship outside of marketing. I mean, we're there to help. But if you don't have a professional.
What does champion the relationship mean?
Own it. They got to care more than you do. They got to care more than you do.
What does that mean? They got to care more than you do.
I mean, they've got to be actively involved in this association because they know that their prospects or clients are there. So their target companies that they're trying to get in front of are there, and they believe in it.
They have to.
So
are what you saying? They have to be a face.
They have to be a face.
They have to be a face to the message that. Well, you hate messaging, you're rolling your eyes, but they have to be a face to whatever marketing is putting out there. They have to be a human being.
They are the voice.
They're the voice.
They are the voice.
Okay.
And so they are speaking at the conference. They're attending the meetings. They're sitting on a board. They are a member of a committee. And on top of that, then your company does a sponsorship.
So as a professional architect, engineer, accountant, lawyer, right? There's lots of these guys. Marketing, it's funny. This is interesting to talk about because on the one hand, you might have a professional who's like, listen, I know what I'm doing. It's all word of mouth. It's all names. And I don't need you. So go away. But really what you're saying is you do need marketing because yes, there's word of mouth, but what marketing can do through a plan or a strategy is put together messaging. I'm going to take it on the chin for this. Put together communications. You got to tell me.
I'm not sure where you're going.
But even if it is word of mouth, it can make your life easier as a professional because you don't have to attend as many events.
I'll call it air cover. I mean, you might be really good at going out and speaking, and you can, get on the speaking docket because you can submit applications like anybody else. But if your organization is really more involved, maybe you're exhibiting in addition to speaking, or
right.
you do have a sponsorship.
Right.
And so you get a bigger role at, the keynote address or, some other aspect of the conference or the association in general. That's just going to it's going to have better ways of connecting your company name to the members beyond the event or the seminar.
Can I go on a limb here and say that marketing is also making you bigger?
Yeah.
Because
that's
let's
kind
say
of what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so let's say
more succinctly.
Let's say you're a sole professional, or you have a small office where it's your partner and you, or there's a few professionals out there that do law or accounting or engineering, architecture, whatever you do, IT professional. It can make you bigger than you are because you can only go to so many events. You have to still service your clients, right? You still have to do all this stuff. So what this marketing can do is the power of marketing is you can, in your off hours, write a piece that's a blog post, but then that's in conjunction with a strategy or a plan for the campaign that's on the same messaging.
Well, topic. It's on the same topic. And
but
you're doing an email campaign out to your clients or customers and your prospects on the same topic that you wrote the blog on. So
right.
Now you're repurposing your content. You're trying to push them to your website. So they go to your website, and not only then do they read the article, but they all see, oh, wow, we didn't know that they did this. And oh, look, they have an assessment that they're offering on this topic. Maybe I should take that. And then they take it, and then, that becomes a lead because now we've seen that they're actually interested because they've engaged and taken this assessment.
But yet we can't just jump on them and say, are you ready to buy?
That's right.
We can't.
Well,
if
they've taken an assessment, they've given you permission, I think, to follow up and say, hey,
sure, but we still have to be careful on the journey because that could easily turn them off. It's still about the people and psychology and connecting.
Right.
So then marketing is also helping, I think, organize your follow-up. Is that fair to say?
Sure.
Because that's
related to everything. Because you're right.
But you. What I'm saying is, you go out there and you have a great idea to connect with people, and then you connect. Well, what do you do with that information? You got to put it in a CRM. Okay. Now what? How do you leverage that information for the next time? Well, I go back in the CRM and I read the notes until there's like 30 notes called hung up. Called no connect.
Well, and that goes back to...
So you help organize too. So that you help organize. And then after you organize, don't you mine that information to some degree to figure out, well, why did the journey end there?
Yeah. I mean, I think the analytics piece of it is becoming bigger and bigger. And I think it's harder for small companies because they may not have the resources. Although now there's so many ways that you can outsource and
Yes and no. I mean, if you have a small firm or company and you reach out to 200 people and you put all that information into a CRM, and then after you do that, you then sit there and say, okay, we had 200 people, we reached out and we were successful connecting with 10%. Mm-hmm. But now we got to read through the notes and figure out why with the other 180. So now you got to go through 180 entries. So let's say now you separate the pool. You say, okay, we started with 200, 10%, 20, put the 20 over here. Okay, great. We're going to have conversations, or we're going to keep those people are on a new level, and we're going to communicate to them. We're going to get our messaging out via email and whatever we're going to do. But now we have this other 180 people. So now you got to take time out of your day as a lawyer, an accountant, or whatever, and you got to weed through the data. Okay, now what? And I don't think that there's any magical. There might be some apps that are written to try to weed through stuff, but there's notes that were made. Well, I called him and he said not now, or I sent an email and they got back saying they're going with somebody else, or they currently work with somebody else and they're not interested. Well, why aren't they interested? Well, they're not interested because we're too small. We can't support them, or our product doesn't do this. Maybe they say that. Maybe they said that, well, your service is, or there's in the community, your service is looked at kind of shaky. Like, I don't know if you guys, and somebody has said that, or there's been a couple people that say it. So now you got to pick that apart and analyze, and it's painful, especially if you're a firm owner and or a salesperson, to sit there, and it's not just time painful. It's painful to see that, because then you're like, wait a second. And so having a marketing person who can go through that data and say, well, here's the news. 20 out of 200, 20 go into this bucket. We got 180 left in this bucket. Of the 180, there's 10 people that actually got back to us, and they told us this about the product. Now, as the firm owner or the salesperson and whatever, you get defensive, and you're like, well, that's not true. But then the marketer can help uncover
we
that.
Can say, all right, well, if they're questioning the product, and if it's the right product, maybe we do a campaign to these folks of, recent wins that we've had on similar type companies, and, kind of build credibility.
Or testimonials.
Yeah,
or
testimonials,
whatever.
Right, whatever it might be, but building credibility and demonstrating that, oh, look, they do work with companies like ours, and seems to be going pretty well.
So the marketer can also assist with sort of a dispassionate examination of the responses.
Because we're not emotionally tied to, John Smith, because we don't know John Smith. But
it's not a reflection on your work or anything. You're more like almost like a data analysis person at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here's where the data is coming back. And then don't hide from it. Sit there and say, well, here's where the data is. Let's go back and come up with some messaging. Just kidding. I thought you'd like that. I don't know what to say, but I'm just saying, isn't that also what marketing is doing?
Yeah.
Behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, we can help analyze the information. Now, the thing with small companies is they'll tend to have more junior marketers too. So it really is a partnership in that the owner or whoever may have to give some ideas on what they're looking for. At least tell us the story. Like, what did you hear? What are these people telling us? And that'll
the
help.
notes, theoretically, if everybody actually did what they don't do,
I mean, that's
right. The CRM input is either non-existent or a huge mess.
I think that's a struggle for small companies and large companies.
So then it becomes more of a feeling. And that's where marketing has to listen to the boots on the ground people who were having the conversations or the email or text exchanges.
Right, and for the people that we weren't able to actually have a phone call with or a conversation with, we continue to nurture that relationship on the marketing side by keeping our name in front of them, and continuing to include them in campaigns, or keep them on our radar so we can invite them to an event that we're doing, or if see that they're on the registration list for an event we're going to, and connecting the dots.
So this is
like
helping them rejoin the journey.
That's right.
So it's not just on their journey, it's helping them rejoin the journey. Because by
still
analyzing
always their journey.
Right, but by analyzing the data, you're helping them rejoin you on the journey, whatever your company on the journey.
We help keep our name in front of them, depending on where
so it's not just about getting initial conversations going, and it's not just about marketing making a sale, because it doesn't, and it's not just about marketing getting a journey, getting people on a journey, and then, well, if they disappear, they disappear. It's also helping people rejoin marketing on the, whatever it is, rejoining both parties on the journey.
That's right.
To whatever they need to do, right? And so I think that this is important because I don't think enough people think about or know how marketing really. I think marketing gets kind of a rap because it's so generic. Like, you need marketing, and then people confuse marketing and sales, and they confuse what marketing's role is. And for the small entrepreneur or professional, you have to think about it. If you can't afford to hire a marketing person, you have to think about, okay, well, now I'm wearing my marketing hat, and later on I'm going to wear my sales hat. And marketing is more, okay, I'm developing this strategy and this program and this messaging, this platform, whatever. And then I'm going to put my sales hat on, and I'm going to go to the event, or I'm going to be on the Zoom meeting, or I'm going to whatever, and I'm going to interact, and I'm going to get data. And then I've got it, and that's my sales hat. Now I've got to take off my sales hat and put back on my marketing hat. And I got to figure out, okay, the people that we got in touch with, put them over here. And the people that came back to us and said no, or not now, or whatever, what are they saying and why are they saying it? So now you have to sit there and be like, okay, you have to be a dispassionate marketer at that point, and help people rejoin their journey.
That's right.
Or rejoin you on their journey.
Right. And it's a process.
And hopefully this sheds some light on when people say plan and strategy, because I think that's where the plan and strategy comes in, because what it does is we're pulling together all these elements. Just because, like I started out with by saying, well, we're going to send out this and we're going to do that and we're going to get a sale. If only it were that easy, because you've got to consider how people make buying decisions and where they are in their journey. And what marketing is saying through the plan and strategy is, let's assume that nobody is ready to buy. Let's assume that they will be ready to buy at some point.
Right.
But
how are we going to stay in front of them in different ways as they progress through their journey, from discovering they've got a problem to being ready to sign on the
right. So
the
you
dotted line.
and marketing might help them discover they have a problem. That might be the very first through your messaging.
Right.
But then along the way, they're doing their research, and that's where the strategy comes in. It's almost like that's the psychology of this whole thing with marketing, is that maybe you're helping them to discover they have a problem, or maybe you're helping them when they're in the research. So the problem identification stage, that's the way maybe to think about this whole plan and strategy thing. Problem identification stage. Did they identify they have a problem yet? Well, no, they haven't. Well, then why would we try to call them and tell them, are you ready to buy? Or whatever.
Right.
Then
but we might say, well, gosh, we've been seeing this with a lot of other companies. Companies like yours are really challenged with, how do they keep their systems secure? And so, there are tons of studies that show, organizations don't think that their systems are that insecure or unsecure, but so they may not be aware that they have a problem. So that kind of speaks to let's educate them on what other companies are doing and seeing.
So that's problem identification along the journey.
Well, they call it like discovery awareness.
Okay, got it. Well, there you go. See, okay. So then they may have discovered they have a problem, and now they're in the research stage. And that's where the marketing plan can come in there, because now the marketing plan says, aha, for those people in the research stage.
Right. We have, it could be an upcoming virtual event. It could be an ebook. It could be a white paper.
So this does not mean they're in the buying stage. This means they're in the, I figured out we got a problem, and I want to see if there's even a solution out there, or a cost-effective solution.
Right. Or they go to some conference, virtual or live, to learn more about, this topic.
Right.
And some of the different solutions that are out there. And then they go to the consideration stage. They've said, okay, you know what? We're ready. We know we got to do something. I'm narrowing it down to, these 3 to 5 potential providers. So now you got to be staying in front of them with more of your qualifications and case studies and testimonials, and the proposal piece comes into, and how do you go through that entire process. And then it's go time. So they make their decision and they either become a customer or client or not. And even if they become a customer or client, that just because you sold them one thing, now, of course, you want to expand that relationship. So that goes back to discovery and awareness on some other topic or issue.
So that's why marketing is so helpful and important, because it helps people patiently work through, and strategically work through all these psychological stages that a potential buyer is going to go through.
Right. And the different marketing tactics that you use at each of those stages is different. You're not going to hit them with a case study or a testimonial when they're just discovering and just discovering what an issue might be, because they're like, what? I'm not right. It would be the same as if you called them and said, hey, I've got a deal for you. They're like,
it's almost like when they start selling features and benefits before the person's ever realized they have a problem.
Right.
So they're like, well, we provide amazing data connectivity flow or whatever. And people are like,
what the heck is
I don't
that?
even know what that is. And I'm not really sure I need that. And I'm not even sure, what are you selling here?
Right.
And they're like, well, isn't it obvious? And you're like, actually, it's not really that obvious. I don't really, and I'm not sure. And that's level at some point, that's where you have to be really careful with messaging too, because that could actually turn people off to your company, because it's like, you guys seem to be like way above us, like complicated, and I don't even know what you guys do. You guys seem like, I remember when I was looking for third-party solutions to help in my company, there were times at which I would just go there and I would see immediately like, for enterprise solutions, companies with 200 employees or more or whatever. And it was like, okay, not for me. Goodbye. Well, because you know what I mean? Because then the message was so complicated and I wasn't at that stage in my journey.
Well, I think this also, now I'll use your word of messaging. It gets down to how do you want to message? How do you want to position yourselves out in the marketplace? What's the tone of your organization? Does that match the experience that the people have when they talk to your salespeople?
Wait a second. So are you saying that you have to be consistent in your tone? Because it's easy to not be consistent. It's easy to come out with a biting campaign that's like, hey, we're here to take on the big guys, and we're this and we're that. But are you prepared to carry that through in your messaging for the next 6 months to a year?
Well, right. You're right. I mean, that's, and marketing will get a ding sometimes for being the people that are watching that consistency. But you do want to go out with the same look, feel, language, in generally speaking. But then, how do you want to position your product or service? Like you said, some people, it's like so complicated. I mean, look, we've all been to a website. I can't even understand what they're trying to tell me. And I'm in marketing. I'm like, God, that is just so marketing speak. You want to like talk in plain English. And that's a decision that your company's got to make, and marketing can. And sometimes we can help, like, because I came from a network engineering firm, and if I had let the engineers write the language for the website or whatever campaign we were doing, holy cow, it was complex. And I'm like, you're talking to CIOs and CFOs. This is too complex. They're not going to understand it. So you got to talk in layman's terms, and you got to talk about what the issues are, not the nuts and bolts of what, your engineering geek speak is.
Well, right, because the engineer for the company that you're looking to sell to is not going to be the one making the decision,
right,
or looking at this.
Right. So that goes back to the buyer. Right. Who are you selling to?
Right. Exactly.
So there definitely is a role, and a valuable one, that marketing can play, and I hope that we've help to articulate some of that during our conversation today.
I think so. I think we have. I think it's just, the important thing is to get the message out that marketing is more than just putting out some words and then people
putting out a brochure
and people come
or a website.
People come and buy, and people,
oh, right,
because
that it's really, it's a process.
It's really about helping people on a journey to make their journey.
That's right.
And
you got to meet them where they're at in
right.
all the different stages of their journey.
Right, exactly. Well, this was awesome.
Well,
thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you are welcome. Goodbye.
Bye.